Tom Torero, rest in peace, said that the London Daygame model is a model, and similar to how when you're riding a bike you have stabilizers, at some point you shed the London Daygame model and you glide through and you work without it. Now, I have a little bit of an issue with this because I went through and did the London Daygame model for 400 grueling day game approaches in my old city that I used to live in, and I realised that it was actually an inefficient way to go about pickup. Now, I have a slight issue with the idea that you can have a model that works at some, it's like stabilizers, but then eventually, let go of it and, just go on without the model. The reason being is because a system of cause and effect should work really all the time snappily. You shouldn't, need to deviate and think too much when it comes to pickup in terms of like calibrating and using push-pull in your head like it's this giant mental, complicated, chaotic puzzle, which a lot of you guys will view it. You might view the pickup as like this social situation is like a chaotic system. Like in physics, you've got a chaotic system which has so many variables and they're all changing at different rates and such that you can't predict, especially with our limited human biology. We can't predict it. Maybe if we had a supercomputer, we would be able to predict all of the interactions and find the optimal path through, right? Because it's so complicated and because you're activating your prefrontal cortex to kind of logic your way through the interaction, you end up coming across as retarded to the chick. This is the fundamental issue with any kind of gamey stuff, any kind of I'm going to micromanage in the moment. This is the fucking problem. And I spent ages trying to navigate this endless maze of the social day game interaction, trying to figure out where I can tweak and optimize and go up and down and left and right and tweak my interactions and make notes and go back and review it. And ultimately, it was all just a waste of time. It was all just a waste of time because really a social interaction is a social interaction. We're human beings. We have like intuition to deal with this shit. It shouldn't be this, modifying and all of this. And of course, the day game guys, they say like, oh, but when it becomes habit, you do the London Daygame model enough and then it becomes habit. And when it becomes habit, then it becomes a part of you and you can kind of do it automatically. I just didn't find this to be the case. I would alternatively suggest that when you do London Daygame, and by the way, you might think, oh, I've only done 400, that's fuck all. You might have done 5,000. Good for you. I'm just telling you from my perspective. One thing that I'll say with the London Daygame stuff is that instead of ingraining the London Daygame model into you and it becoming habit and then you being able to freely socialize and all of this stuff, it really doesn't need to be as complicated as that, right? Namely because the things you're programming into yourself with the London Daygame stuff is flawed initially. Again, it might hurt you guys. I know it fucking hurts you London Daygame guys. I really know. And it hurt me too when I sunk 6 to 9 months of my life into this stuff and all of the grit and determination that went into trawling the streets to try and make this shit work after rejection and feeling like a weirdo and all of this stuff, but knowing it was the only path, so I had to force myself into it. I know it feels shit for a guy to tell you that what you're doing isn't the right way. I know it hurts, but please bear with me. The correct way to go about it isn't this gamey stuff. And you might be like, well, who are you to say that? I tried the different stuff. I tried the John Anthony stuff. I know if you're probably a London Daygame guy, you probably have seen this guy. You've seen him insult Nick Krause. You've seen him insult Tom Torero. You've seen him insult James Tusk. But believe me, try it. Just try it. I really want to help you. I want to help you succeed because it pains me to see dudes spin their wheels endlessly with ineffective systems and ultimately get 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, and you just endlessly you are going to get chicks from it because you're doing so much volume. I know, but painful. Would you not rather get more juice for your squeeze, bang for your buck? I certainly would, and I did. Try John Anthony's method. Scrap all of the gamey stuff. Instead of going into it like, oh, I need to program the London Daygame model into my mind and then have the stabilizers and then let the stabilizers go into the interaction using John Anthony's system. His system is way more simple. And here's the main thing. Here's the main fucking thing. The vibing stage in the London Daygame stuff is basically purported to be a kind of culmination of gamey tactics in order to generate attraction and all of this stuff. Whereas the vibing in John Anthony's method is extremely simple. Number one, extremely simple. And you might think, oh, if it's extremely simple, then surely it's less effective than that which is more complicated. This is the error that everyone makes. Everyone thinks that because something's more complicated and because there's more theory behind it, that it's going to be more effective. Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. That's a false inference. The truth is, this simpler option, this John Anthony's method, which is simpler, is actually far more effective. And the vibing, in particular, is unbelievably simple. His advice is literally, you should be interacting with the girl like you're talking to a guy friend, just talking, right? But you're injecting flirtation and sexuality into it. That's it. That's it. You keep yourself at 100 out of 100. You do that shit. You move things forward. That's the fucking vibing, right? It's way more simple. And trust me, when you do it, you're going to just be... The first time I tried it, I was in a bar. And I remember I was just like, oh my God, this chick hasn't reacted like I'm a retard. I actually feel normal. I feel better in my skin. I feel like I'm interacting this socially how I should be, instead of how these guys tell you to kind of orchestrate it. It shouldn't be this orchestration. You should just go in there and boom. You've got the social stuff is in this brain. This is billions of years of hardware. Hundreds of millions. Not billions, probably like tens of millions. Hundreds of millions if you want to get really to the primitive part of the brain. I digress. The point being, vibing, keep it simple. John Anthony stuff all the way. With regard to the London Daygame system, in terms of open vibe, I can't even remember it these days. Open stack vibe, escalate, close or something. Just do John Anthony's way. It's way better. Fuck all of the pick. You have to unlearn all of this pickup stuff, this London Daygame stuff. You've got to unlearn it. And believe me, the women will love you for it way more. They'll actually appreciate you, instead of looking at you as this gamey weirdo clown, this little like, here's my London Daygame model. It's like, the girls instead are like, oh, it's this cool normal guy. He's giving it a pop. Maybe I'm not interested, but thank you. Or they're like, oh, this guy's cool. I give him the time of day. And they give you the time of day and you move things forward and boom, you're like making out and the rest is history. The point being, I've explained myself so many times. Leave a comment, in theory. London Daygame stuff, scrap it. It's way too complicated. You're overcomplicating it. The simple solution is not necessarily the best. The only way you're going to know this for sure, instead of just believing me, and if you're watching the video all the way, chances are you're really, about this shit. You want to do John Anthony stuff. Put this London Daygame stuff on pause for a bit. Put it on pause and just try a new system for a month or two. Trust me, this is going to be it. Trust me. Fucking hell. You can see how fired up I am. Is this not an indication to you that there might be something here? Leave a comment. Any of you London Daygamers, leave a fucking comment. I will gladly respond to all of you. I love interacting with people in the comments, or get in touch with me on Telegram on I'm not fucking trying to sell you anything. Like, I literally just want to talk. I want to get inside you guys' brains, pick your brains, and really just help you guys the fuck out. Because believe me, this was a thorn in my side for 6 to 9 months. I could have easily spent years on this stuff and God forbid sunk tens of thousands into coaching. But luckily I found an escape route and now I'm, infinitely happier. Truly, really. Leave a comment, please.